Jokic is playing out of his mind. And yeah, Jamal Murray is healthy, and what he's doing shooting-wise is definitely something to factor into how you think the Nuggets will do in the NBA Finals. However, the point differential for this 4-game sweep was only plus 24. You combine all the wins the Nuggets had, it was only 24 points. None of them, Joe, were blowouts. And I think that's significant because if you come in saying, well, Denver's the 1 seed, probably taking on the 8-seeded Miami Heat, they were winning the Western Conference and they won the Western Conference Finals, and Jokic, well, the Nuggets did have dogfights with the Lakers. And maybe the Nuggets are a tad more vulnerable despite getting that sweep. Now, they're getting a lot of rest, and that's great, but maybe they're not as impressive as we once expected, and maybe that's something to factor in going forward.
Let's say the Celtics win. They show up tonight. Or Miami just doesn't have their game. They're not on it. You know, they just don't look like they have in the last few games. How much does this change the momentum in the betting market? What happens when, we have a sign of life. We're going to Boston for game 5. They're saying the right things. Like, how much does the market, what does that plus 750 become if it's 3-1 going back? This is a team that was minus 225 favorites down 0-1.
Oh boy,
3-1.
That's the problem. Is that, like, I think we've been wanting to pearl clutch our priors for a long time when it comes to the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. I would not be surprised if say this gets to 3-2, that suddenly the Celtics are favored to win this series. In terms of the priors, analytics, things like that, it may only take a couple of nail-biting wins for the C's to suddenly make them the favorites in the series, which to me, intrinsically would be outrageous, but we still want to believe that Boston has something. This still doesn't make sense why they have fallen so far. And so I wouldn't be surprised if you have a few, betting out there, but just look at point differential. This is one of the reasons why I kept bringing up Denver and its point differential being plus 24 for that entire 4-game sweep. It was a much smaller point differential for the Nuggets than it has been for the Heat. And yet we still want to believe that Boston should have much shorter odds to come back from 3-0 than the Lakers, even though the Lakers have shown way more fight. This still isn't making, in terms of like analytical sense, it's hard to sort of wrap your head around why this is going on and why we still want to believe that the Celtics, with all of this talent, can still find a way to put it all together.
A lot of this playoff betting from a props perspective is trying to find guys whose minutes are constantly changing. Is there someone who's going to play more minutes? Is there somebody going to play less minutes? So I'm going to look at maybe somebody like Horford, try to play his unders. As far as Miami goes, I'll be a little hesitant to play some of their overs because I do think there's a chance they win by a lot and kind of pull the starters there a little bit late. So try to think about, who's going to play a lot, who's going to play less. And I tend to think in the playoffs, it's better to go with unders. There's just more chance of these games being slow. There's just more chance of these guys getting kind of yanked. So I'll look at Horford unders and stuff like that. To steal the line from the water boy, you can't hold anything back. So let's get weird with it. Maybe bench Time Lord. Just tell Tatum. Tatum's got a guard. Bam. We're going 5 guards. It's all small. We're going to shoot 63 pointers tonight. But that's what you kind of have to do. And it does. It sounds like with the way Missoula's talking, the way you hear some of these players, it does feel like it's over. And maybe they all pack their swimsuits to just kind of head to the beach after the game. So I like Miami tonight. I've liked Miami all series. I'm just going to probably play a team total over for them, maybe try to find some alt spreads because I think if this is done, it's going to be a blowout. I think there's a chance this is Miami in double digits. At the very least, they're going to put up a big number. So I'll play a team total over and then wait to see when some of these alt spread lines kind of open up a few different places. I'm looking at MGM right now. You could get the Heat, minus 3.5 plus 110, minus 8.5 plus 200. I'm probably just going to sprinkle all the way down there because it does. It just feels like that last game was the knockout punch, and Boston's just got no air left.
If you look at the list I see you have on the screen there, so many of those players are on one of the super teams. 4 of the top 5 on that list are on one of the super teams. So you have each of these teams has 2, 3, maybe even 4 MVP candidates that can sort of take touches away from each other, cancel each other out in some sense, maybe steal some votes from each other. But when you look at a player like Elena Deladon on your Mystics, who, like you said, is healthy again for the first time in a few years, she's averaging 33 minutes a game through 2 games, which she hasn't done in quite a while. They should be the 3 seeds. So you're talking about a dominant player on a top 3 team who's going to get a lot higher volume and touches than maybe some of those players on the super teams. And then Alyssa Thomas is another one at plus 1,600 there. She's averaging through 2 games, 16, 13, and 6 with 3 steals. So she's putting up incredible numbers, really high volume on the Sun, who are 2-0 and look like they might be a top 4 team as well. They just beat the Mystics the other day. So I would almost look for maybe a player like that who could be, the dominant team accumulating counting stats on a 3 or 4 seed as more of a long shot bet than one of those top 2.
When it comes to the prop market, where do you look? Are you carrying over things that you did last season? Do you look to fade, some of the star players and look at role player props? Like, what's sort of your strategy here in the prop market?
Yeah, I love to sort of find spots where certain players have tendencies and trends. So, for example, Kelsey Mitchell on the Fever, they've played 2 games so far. Kelsey Mitchell loves to sleep in her own bed. So when she's at home and she's on 2 or 3 days of rest, she's been sleeping in her own bed for a few days, she goes off, she explodes. When she's on the road on short rest, on maybe 1 day rest, on a short travel day, she often comes up short. And that we've already seen both of sides of that so far this season. They've played 2 games. First one was at home with, a week of rest since their last preseason game. She was in the 20s, cashed her over 18.5. 18.5 again the next game, short rest on the road. She had 10 points, cashed the under 18.5. I hit both of those. So I like to look for players who have trends like that and sort of predictable, whether it's home and road, short rest, whether it's, certain opponents that they struggle against because of the matchup. And then also, once we start getting further in the season and you see injuries pile up, sometimes you could take advantage of that because the books might not necessarily adjust as well for if one player is out, the next player's usage is going to go up. Or if one point guard is out, this other guard is going to get more assists, things like that. So that's an area I like to target as well.